All right, guys, coming in with another day of training for you. Today's class is on BUMED Instruction 6281 Charlie, the management of regulated waste. This class should be pretty simple and easy today. We're going to be highlighting just the basics of it, not going in depth into the instruction itself. Regulated waste is often used interchangeably with infectious waste, biohazard waste, biomedical waste, and it's based off of 9 groups that are associated with inside that instruction, which we're going to be covering in this video itself. So regulated medical waste versus non-regulated medical waste. Perhaps the easiest thing to do here is look at the non-regulated medical waste definition, which is solid material intended for disposal, which is produced as a direct result of non-infectious patient diagnosis, treatment, therapy, or medical research. So you're going to kind of see as we go into this, the difference here is if you think about something that could be essentially a contagion or an infectious vector to transmit some sort of disease, you're pretty much safe in assuming that it should be regulated medical waste, okay, using that common sense approach to this. And the reason why we're going to be going into more of a generalized approach to this instead of per se like you're studying for an exam is we're just applying this to your everyday life at the RAS, okay? So non-regulated medical waste, here's another good example of stuff, is it's very small amounts of blood or other bodily fluids. You can dispose catheters, trace amounts of liquids, swabs, drapes, gown masks, urine cups, like all of that. If it's in small trace amounts, like it does not need to be tossed into a regulated medical waste receptacle, okay? 9 groups are cultures, stocks, and vaccines. Group 2, pathological waste. 3, blood and blood products. 4, used sharps. 5 is animal waste. 6 is isolation waste. 7 is unused sharps. 8 is other. 9 is chemo trace waste. So you'll notice that I put italics on the ones that we're going to actually be covering that are most applicable to your daily lives, which is group 1, culture, stocks, and vaccines. Group 3, blood and blood products. And group 4 and 7, used sharps and unused sharps. Starting with that group 1, pretty straightforward here, everyone. So empty vaccine vials, nasal mist vaccine dispensers should be treated and put into a sharps container for treatment and disposal, okay? The only caveat to this, which is really rare, is any vaccine which contains over 3% of thermocell, okay? Thermocell is a hazardous waste, which is a completely different thing inside the instruction. It is not regulated medical waste, but in real life, like you're really not going to come across that because even when you give a vaccine, there's not going to be enough of thermocell left over that would constitute getting rid of it in a hazard waste as opposed to regulated medical waste. Group 3, blood and blood products. So breakable containers of bulk blood and blood products are disposed in rigid puncture-proof containers. Okay, so kind of getting confused perhaps on that one. Breakable containers, which would be glass. Okay, that's why it has to be rigid like that. A lot of the times we're using plastic bags now. This is really important considering that we're going to Project Valkyrie. We're going to start doing more whole blood products. So the key word here is blood bags, blood filter tubing, and items saturated / dripping or caked with blood are disposed in regulated medical waste bags. Notice when I said non-regulated mess, a little bit of blood, partial bleeding on bandages, not a big deal, okay? Saturated, dripping, or caked blood needs to be tossed away in regulated medical waste bags. We can't just toss this stuff away. So I'm sure this could be potential issues as we start incorporating more whole blood training into our curriculum at the BAS and across the division as a whole. So just be aware of that. And if you see something, say something, right? Don't go along with somebody that just thinks, yeah, I can just toss away this entire Chuck's pad that's completely saturated in somebody's blood. Groups 4 and 7, used and unused sharps. Okay, so basic sharp practices. If it's the sharps, needles, vaccines, it should all go into a sharps container immediately after use. Okay, never recap a needle by hand. There's different ways to do it. Recap using the 2-hand method, the scoop method. There's multiple ways to do it to avoid needle sticks. And then in regards to regulated medical waste, ensure that large sharps containers can't be tipped over and they're in a secured position. And remove and secure sharps containers when they're above the designated fill line. Don't be the person that just is like, man, I'm not going to take care of that. If you don't have the keys to unlock the container that's holding the sharps to swap it out, find whoever does, okay? Don't just let that thing keep building and building and building. Storage. Um, Storage at the RAS, I believe, okay, I'm not going to speak as an expert on this one, but it's not the end all be all for storage here. It's more of internal storage. So it needs to be kept in a prevent pests from access, easy cleaning, especially if there's any spills. And the entrance to the storage should be labeled with a biohazard marker. Okay, it's a universal symbol. We've all seen it, and it should be noticeable from at least 5 feet away. It's either bright red or orange. Here's a good example right here. Okay, universal symbol right there. So that is regulated medical waste in a nutshell. Okay, 6280 is a little bit more in depth of an instruction. It's actually not too bad to digest. The easiest thing you can do is when you're trying to understand the instruction itself is just contextually think, how does this apply to my day-to-day life, or put myself in a scenario where I would be handling it in that way, and hopefully it would actually be a little bit more clear. And as you notice, some of these trainings are going to be longer, some are going to be shorter. I'll keep them as short as possible within reason. I noticed not a lot of people are watching them, so hopefully that upticks. Next Monday is going to be how to prep and study for an exam. So just to give you all a heads up, if you could, please print off your last 3 profile sheets and have your new bibs ready. You're going to hear me say the same thing tomorrow. Um, that way, when we go over it on Monday, you can kind of go step by step with me and see the method to the madness, okay? And hopefully it will help you out. All right, well, thanks for tuning in, and hopefully you're getting some out of these. We'll see you guys tomorrow.